What is going on? It is a beautiful Tuesday. Welcome to the Players Ball Podcast. I am your host, Roddy. You can follow me on Twitter at Roddy Remastered. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at The Players Ball 1. Also on Instagram, we are at The Players Ball. And then you can also catch us on our YouTube as well. The Players Ball Podcast can be entered for both of those separate sites. Now, it's been a great weekend in sports, man. It's been a real good, real good NFL draft. I would say it was probably one of the more interesting ones in history. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the news that really took away from everything that was going on with the draft in the Big Three, and that is with my man Aaron Rodgers. And also, we will do a little preview on the NBA play-in tournament as well. So while we get to that, I just want to remind y'all that every single beat on this podcast, except for last week with our draft analysis, is made by myself. So if you guys have any inquiries on, beats or anything like that, and you're listening to this, definitely hit me up. Let me know. We can definitely, get to work sooner rather than later and, figure it out. But without, leaving too much room for the extras, let's just get into it. Because like I was saying, we had an NFL draft, and I almost said NBA, my bad, NFL draft that was really incredible, to say the least. I really felt like the NFL draft is, and we said this, during the coverage that we have with our guy Kyle. Make sure y'all go check that out on YouTube. It was a great conversation that we had, kind of, throughout some of our predictions and, some of the things that we were feeling and, trying to see how the night goes. So y'all go enjoy that when y'all get a chance. But I think, with a draft that usually, the draft has that number one pick where you're either 75 to 85% sure of who it's going to be, probably like the week before, and this was one of those drafts where we probably knew 2 years in advance who the number one pick is, right? So Trevor Lawrence kind of, deaded all of that, that questioning of, who's going to be that number one guy in a draft class that was honestly stacked as well. Like even if we're going to take Trevor Lawrence out of this draft class, like this is still a good class, like, and it would be one of, the better classes of the decade as well. Even though, we just started it, it's still one of the better draft classes that we've seen in the last 10 years at least. So, big shout out to the NFL, I guess, for, making it a production, because I think I looked up and like we were on Devontae Smith and like that was like, I think like 2 hours into the coverage. So like they want to draw this thing out. They want to make it, a spectacle, build anticipation, all of that. So I get it. I don't really, fault them or doubt them for anything with that. But I think when you have the players and the personalities that come along with, a draft that has the production value that the NFL is going to put the money behind, right? I also feel like it's super fly to have, the players also be, the interesting part of the festivities. And really what was said about the draft was that it's going to start after pick 3, right? And everybody was trying to see, okay, what are the 49ers going to do? We talked about Mac Jones. We talked about Trey Lance. We talked about Fields. We talked about pretty much every other quarterback, seeing as that was probably the position that they wanted to trade up for. You don't trade up that much if you don't want to go get a guy who, if you're not going to put him in the driver's seat like this year, you're definitely going to boost up and make sure he's in the driver's seat in the next 1 to 2 years, right? So that's what San Francisco did, right? And they, they're always going to have that loose ass committal to, Jimmy G. And of course, it's something that they have to say. It's the politically correct thing, or whatever. But I mean, To be honest with you, if this dude is not starting Trey Lance in, like I said, a year or two, like that has to mean that either Jimmy G has won them a Super Bowl or he's won an MVP. Like he has to drastically change the trajectory of what he's got going on right now. So I don't see that happening. And I think that, the Niners were like, okay, we're going into this and we got to make a big and better decision. The last time we were going up to pick a quarterback, we got a guy who, he balled out in New England, but, he really was kind of a little bit of fool's gold, right? And Shanahan was really big on trying to see if he could, do the whole thing with Kirk Cousins because of the relationship that he had with him in Washington. But at the end of the day, man, like it's really difficult for me personally to think that was either, a good decision either way. You know what I'm saying? So they've already shown that as an organization, they're a little bit iffy in their decision making, or at least their thought process in making a quarterback decision. So with this one, they wanted to get it right. I still feel like they went with the unorthodox pick just because, I don't know, I guess it's a Shanahan thing to like pick a good player. And I'm not saying Trey Lance isn't good because he is, but to pick a good player, but to also make it to where it's like, well, this is the guy who is like also the least proven. Like he's got the traits and everything that, these NFL insiders talk about, but he doesn't really have like the track record. Like he has under 500 attempts in college, so it's really difficult to figure out who he is and really judge that, up front, compared to maybe a Justin Fields and I guess with a Mac Jones, if you want to go off of last year. But, even then, I feel like a lot of that was wild too, because you're really judging a guy who has, a stacked team going up, in his senior season. He's been able to learn behind, two great quarterbacks in Tua and Jalen, and, being able to get what he can get from them, have some camaraderie with the guys that, are upperclassmen with him as well, and get the opportunity to, potentially boost himself to, the I think the Patriots picked him at 15, 15th pick. That's something that he probably wouldn't have obtained if he didn't have the season that he just had, So I get it. Everybody in the organization was, blowing smoke that, maybe they're coming up to pick Mac Jones. There was a lot of weight put on Chris Sims' words because, him and Shanahan are mad close. And, what he was saying makes sense. If Shanahan, is able to plug a guy in who's ready right now, he has a great system, he has the team around him, he's got pretty much everything he needs. He just has to be at the minimum competent. It makes sense, given how we feel and how the media feels about Shanahan, it makes sense. But I just feel like if you didn't take the guy who got you to, not the guy who got you to this point, but take the prototype of the guy that got you to this point, a quarterback with a fucking cannon and that can run like a gazelle, like you do that every time. I don't know why you don't try to replicate that every time. And of course, RG3 got injured, like we're not saying that situation went perfect at all, because there were some faults on Shanahan and his father, for the way they handled that. But I mean, to be frank with y'all, like I still feel like the smartest decision was to go Justin Fields. I mean, to be quite honest, and I still think out of all the quarterbacks, he may not accomplish the most, but I feel like he will be the better player. I just do. I mean, I love Trevor Lawrence, and I think he is a freak of nature. Everything, hats off, like not taking nothing away from the man, right? But at the end of the day, I just feel like Fields has it. Like he's been proven. He's went up against guys who, and quarterbacks who are quote unquote better than him, and he's balled out every time. So I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. But the Niners think they got their guy in Lance, so that's what they're gonna do. Honestly, I think it'll probably be a thing where if Jimmy G comes out cold this season, man, Shanahan is gonna have a real short leash for him. If not, pulling him before the season even starts, and having Lance start the year. But I still don't think that'll happen. I think he'll give Jimmy a chance, especially with him being so injured last year. I think he'll get more of the benefit of the doubt than he should, but I mean, that's the NFL. It's a meritocracy, and sometimes, and I wouldn't even call it a nepotism type thing, but fans and players, realize that these organizations and these people have their favorites, so that's kind of, just how it is. Like, some guys are just afforded the luxuries that others aren't. And especially in the NFL with a 53-man roster, like, you're going to find a lot of that in this league. So, but yeah, I think that was probably when the draft started at 3. And then we go to, the Dolphins, who picked Jalen Waddle, and, the wide receiver who broke his ankle from Alabama last year, played in the national championship, clearly and obviously, still hurt. But he ended up going before, his teammate who won the Heisman. First receiver to win the Heisman since Desmond Howard. Like, it's one thing, to say, well, he had a stacked team, and Alabama, it's Alabama, da. But I mean, Devontae Smith, he had the moments to go along with his Heisman season. It wasn't just like he was just, beating up bad teams and just padding stats and getting a whole bunch of yak yards and, doing this, that, and the third. It was really him working, balling out. And I think he definitely deserves, to be at an organization that's competent, even though I don't know if he gonna get that in Philly, to be brutally honest with y'all. I don't know if he gonna get that, but you never know. We'll see. It's something that I'm definitely worried about for him. With Jalen not really being as proven yet, but like we said, we'll see how it happens. But I think overall, the most surprising thing for me probably was that move. And I feel like I wasn't so shocked that, with Mac Jones that he fell so far, but I was kind of more, I guess, intrigued, that the typecast, of the New England Patriots, and the fact that they were able to go and get him. Like, it's just funny to me, like, how that always just seems to work out for, like, guys like Mac Jones. But hey, we'll see. People think there's going to be a quarterback competition in New England. I don't know, man. I mean, Cam's got to show me that he's finished, and he wasn't good last year, but the team wasn't good either. So he's got more weapons. Like I said, Bill spent that check, so he's going to have an opportunity to prove himself. And if he doesn't, I mean, Mac Jones is right there. And I'll be the first one to say that he deserves to sit on that bench if he's not good this year. But, all in all, the first round of the NFL draft was eventful. Some things we knew, some things we found out, but overall, I feel like it was a great spectacle. It was a great weekend. I think it was well put together, other than that, Roger Goodell's chair BS, but whatever. So we'll definitely be analyzing, some more of these picks and have some guests for you as well to do that, so y'all can get a little bit more analysis on how some of these teams are going to use some of these guys and utilize, the investment that they made on them this weekend. So shout out to everybody that was drafted, everybody that is getting the opportunity to live out their dream. It is such a blessing, to see y'all even, get that chance. It's really, it's really heartwarming, on some corny-ish, but, it is dope. It's dope to get to live your dream, and it's dope to, see so many people, being able to root for you, even though they don't really know who you are, but that's why you're getting the opportunity to introduce yourself. All right. So like I said, shout out to everybody that got drafted, and we will see what happens. All right, let's get into some news now. I know we took a break, from other sports last week, and, you were getting mock draft to death and who's going to take Mac Jones to death. So we'll mention a couple things that happened last week, as well as preview some stuff from Monday. But we'll start with LeBron coming back last week against the Kings. And the Lakers, even though they lost that game, needed that. I think that LeBron is really essential, of course, to any team who he plays for's success. And having him healthy, having AD and him on the court at the same time, which, we talk about, the Nets and, the fact that Kyrie and KD and James Harden have only played, 7 games together. Well, AD and LeBron haven't played, even though it is more, I don't know the exact number, but it's not like it's super far off. Like, a lot of these guys have been missing time for the Lakers. And to keep it going with the Lakers, Dennis Schroeder is going to be out for 10 to 15 days. He was exposed to somebody who tested positive for COVID, so he's going to have to quarantine, and with it coming down the stretch, again, it's another key piece who was really hooping, being out of the lineup and not being available to play. So, man, I don't know how the Lakers are going to properly prepare for these playoffs, or potentially even a play-in tournament, which we'll get into a little bit later. But man, I wouldn't be nervous, and I'm not nervous right now, but I would definitely be a little less confident if I, am not having my best 2 guys out there for a majority of the season. I'm having the other key pieces that we brought in, during the offseason, getting hurt and everything like that. It's been a rough go with, COVID just in general, with this season being so condensed, and, players getting, basically outworked and run to the ground. So I definitely get it. But, if I'm the Lakers, I'm not panicking yet, but I am definitely making sure that, if anything, we try to get LeBron and AD when healthy on the court as much as possible to get them ready for what's coming up ahead. All right. And to keep it moving, we'll go to the littler league, if, it's up to the Super League guys, even though the Super League team is in jeopardy, or the Super League team, who I classify as Real Madrid, because, their owner, or, well, not owner, but their president was the ringleader for this whole Super League operation. They got a great chance of getting a butt sent back to the crib. You look at Chelsea, and the second leg of their tie is going to be on Wednesday. They've been in good form. They don't really have any injuries. They got all their guys. They don't have anybody on suspension or anything crazy like that. And while Madrid are, still a very good team, even when they have injuries, probably not going to get Ramos back. Probably not going to get Mendy back. Varane still is struggling for COVID, and he's already been ruled out. So you guys are going to have to put on a performance away that, your form in La Liga has been all right, but I don't know if they've had this type of test this year. And it's going to prove for them to be important if they want to win, the whole thing, to get through this obstacle. Because trust me, depending on what happens in the other leg, which we'll get into really quickly, they're going to have their work cut out for them all the way, whether it's PSG or whether it's City. Because, both of them are just machines. They have the talent. They have the experience now. I just feel like it's going to spell trouble if they don't overcome the obstacle that is Chelsea. So to keep it going with PSG, whose leg is actually today, I feel like with Mbappe being, doubtful with his injury, and that's what everybody was kind of wondering, why wasn't he as productive in the first leg? Because, I guess people thought he, had something wrong with him, or he doesn't show up in the big games, which is what everybody automatically goes to. But really, to me, it just looked like, man, he was kind of hurt or not comfortable, at least. He was able to play, but it wasn't an ideal situation. And hey, man, they're down 2-1 on away goals. Technically, that's 2 goals they gotta get, and when you look at it, in terms of the strength of Manchester City, and the fact that they haven't came through on this stage in so long, it really feels like now is their time. They've got the younger guys, they're dealing with their own, health issues and stuff like that. Aguero can't stay on the pitch, but Pep has always been able to overcome that, in the past 2 years, and it's shown to be successful for him. So I honestly think that City moves on this year, and I think City wins the whole thing. It's really looking like they are the team to beat. And, regardless of if it's Chelsea or Madrid, even as a Chelsea fan, I feel like just City is way too prepared. They have way too much of an arsenal for, me to just be like, oh, well, it's City. We can beat them. We've beat them before, It's still, one of those squads that you always have to respect when you're going up against them, no matter the history, what type of form you're in, whatever. So I'm excited. I'm ready to see who's going to be in this final. It's been such a weird year with the final, being in August, this year, I guess, technically, or last year. And with everything with COVID that brought, the fans not being in the stands and whatnot. So really excited to see it. But if I had to be a betting man, and we will have our wagers for this game, I would pick City to win the whole thing, but that's just me. All right. Now, to stay over there, we got Inter Milan. They won the Serie A, finally breaking Juventus's long streak of winning the league. I'm so, happy for Antonio Conte, who is a former Chelsea manager, took Chelsea to the Premier League glory that we've been so chasing, ever since we won the league in 2012. And man, it's really great to see, somebody who's brought you joy, have success in other countries in Europe. So shout out to Conte, shout out to Lukaku, who, he really got a second life, after getting kind of, shulled away from United and not really living up to the hype that, he was brought in with. But he's definitely found a home there. He's definitely going to probably have a spot on that 11 for the next 2, 3, 4 years. So I'm excited to have some parity, in Serie A, because it's literally been Juve. And, with all the rumors with Cristiano leaving, hopefully this is a turn of the new leaf, for these Milan clubs, because even AC Milan was better than, they've been in the last 3 to 4 years this year. So hats off to them. I really appreciate that, like I said, there's some more parity in Serie A because it's desperately needed. Now to go to the Diamond, the Yankees quietly have won 5 of their last 6, and I know they were against pretty bad teams, but they're getting back into form. The worries are starting to go down. They're starting to hit again. I do think that they're still a little bit relying on the long ball, which, they just gotta figure out, okay, well, in the situations where we're up against a pitcher who's got really good stuff and we can't just, berate them with talent, how are we going to, strategically pick these teams apart with both pitching and defense? And, it's yet to be seen. And like we say, it's a really long season in the MLB, and, in April and even in early May, we're not going to know anything with, the greatest of solidity, if I can be frank. So, honestly, I still think it is the Dodgers championship to lose, but we'll see what happens. I really feel like they can, make a run and give them a little bit more hell than they did last year. But all in all, I really think that the Dodgers are just a team to beat. They're just too stacked this year. So, but we'll see. It should be interesting. It's a lot of good teams in the MLB, so I'm excited for it. Baseball is giving me that feeling of excitement that I've been missing from it for almost 6 to 7 years. So it's wonderful. Now, to cap it off with some unfortunate news, unfortunately, Tyrese Halliburton and Jaylen Brown, they both had knee injuries. As I unfortunately watched Draymond Green on the ground in New Orleans right now, holding his knee and ankle, which absolutely sucks. But Tyrese's injury was really, it looked bad, if we're gonna be frank. So I hope he's okay. He's supposed to get an MRI. Today on Monday we're gonna wait to hear back from that. But him and Jaylen, being out of the potential. Well, I guess Sacramento's probably not gonna get to the play-in tournament, but with Jaylen potentially being out for the playoffs, especially this late in the season, we definitely probably wanna, make sure that these guys aren't just strictly, playing these games and over exerting themselves and doing all of this because there's this fear that now that if you're not in the top 6, then you're not going to get the opportunity to win a championship. So shouts out to those guys. I'm praying that they're good and hoping that they can be assets to their teams and be able to, like we said, live their dream and understand that all the time it's gonna be difficult to keep an injury-free season just because of the length of it. But all in all, I just want to see these guys be able to compete and perform because the league is so interesting when they are. So with that being said, that is the news for today. Now, let's get into the big 3. All right, man, the big 3 biggest topics in sports right now, and we will start with the NBA's play-in tournament. So, there's been a lot of talk, and, if you're big on Twitter, you've, seen a lot of it, especially with the Lakers going on this little bit of a cold streak that they're going on, losing. I think they've lost 6 games. Like they've slipped all the way down to the 6th seed, and that is the edge of playoff or play-in tournament territory. Now, Everybody, I don't think like one person knows off of the top of their head like how this thing is going to work because it's new. And I honestly have been going back and forth in my head all day, y'all, to be honest with you. And I didn't really know how to come in here and, you know, say how I felt because I didn't know. Like, I really did not know how I felt about this. Because I get the people who are like, man, we play 72 games this season, but in a normal one, we play 82 games to figure out who the best 8 teams are. That's why the season that, you know, some people think that is already too long, you know, is the purpose of all of it, you know, but there really is, and I think, you know, this is the biggest part, a I don't even know if this word that I'm about to use is even the words, but there's no incentive for these bottom of the barrel teams to, you know, want to win once they figure out, you know, about 40, 50 games in, hey man, we're not really that good. Like, we're probably going to be fighting for lottery status in a normal NBA situation. So let's just rest some of these guys that we have on long contracts, you know, our max players. Make sure that, you know, we get them to the end of the season without anything catastrophic happening to them, and, you know, regroup and rebuild in the offseason, right? But with the play-in tournament, you are actually able to get more parity later on in the season. I mean, you even have this Warriors Pelicans game, who, I mean, everybody's not going to want to watch that if you're not, you know, if you're not a basketball fanatic, like, you know, really into the game and really into the playoff races, you're not going to want to see that, right? But with these games that are later in the season, I really feel like that it gives the opportunity, you know, having the play-in tournament for these teams who, you know, like, for lack of a better term, would be giving up by now. Like, really, like, would be giving up by now. You give them a chance to be competitive and not just say, man, we're going to tank and, you know, have just whatever, whoever, however, playing for us, and we're just gonna, like I said, try to get to the end of the season. So, I mean, you can hate the play-in tournament. I totally understand if you hate it. But when Adam Silver as a commissioner sees all these teams tanking, you know, later on in the season, teams that really don't have much to play for, it's like, what else can he do? You know, he has to stop that. And this essentially, you know, in a weird season is what he had to do. It's a playoff tournament and a play-in tournament that allows both the lower seeded teams and the teams who would probably have nothing to play for to have an opportunity to, you know, show their talents on a bigger stage. So honestly, I feel like if they implement this beyond this season, people are going to hate it. Like, that's just what it is. Like, change is always going to bring about, you know, dissatisfaction for some group or party, right? But if we keep going and keep it, you know, so that we can get used to having these teams, you know, playing and being competitive, even though they're not the best teams in the world, it still makes for a better product at the end of the day. And I saw someone, you know, with the dialogue on Twitter say that, you know, stop looking at it as, you know, these lower seeded teams and these, you know, bad teams are getting an opportunity to just get blown out. But look at it as, man, the NBA is really rewarding the top 6 teams now, so that the remaining, you know, 6 teams are really fighting, you know, scrapping. It's like a crabs in the barrel situation. So, you know, I totally understand it. I totally get why you would want to have this, you know, to have more parity and to have more just in general excitement around the game later on in the season. So, because it brings more revenue to the game ultimately, and that's what it's all about. So, I'm excited for the play-in tournament. I think I'm on the side of liking it, but don't kill me if y'all don't feel the same way. All right, we'll still get some interesting basketball out of it, which that's all we want anyway, right? To keep it pushing though, let's get to number 2, which is the events that happened across the pond in Manchester on Sunday. So to give you a little background story, of course, Manchester United was part of the European Super League that is no more now, and they were one of the, whenever you get one of your executives from the club on the board, like you're one of the founding members, like your name is on it in a way that, maybe the Chelseas and the Cities and the Inters, weren't really on it, because you have a guy who runs your organization in the board of the league. And the fans were upset about this. Of course, like you've seen, I'm sure everybody went to the streets and took it, up with the management, for lack of a better phrasing, and took it to their front door. Right. So, but with Manchester United, the thing with them is that this is a total, I wouldn't say it's totally different, because Arsenal kind of goes through the same thing, but it's a situation where, hey man, we hated you in the first place. It's like that person that was like, oh, I don't like him. I don't like them or them. And then they did something to so-and-so that I do like, and that just made me even confirm my hate for him more. And that's basically what happened with the Glazers getting involved in this European Super League. They, got their main guy who, facilitated this scheme that they're basically running on the club, which was purchased by debt and is used as a guarantor for the owners, who are the Glazers, who also own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL. They're basically using Man United as for lack of a better term, a credit card. Like, they're using their earnings and their profits from them to do their dirty work and not really investing back into the club. And, the crazy part about it is that, Osir Gunnar Solskjaer, and I never know how to say his name right, so y'all flame me if I'm not saying it right. But O's problem in 2005 was that, man, like, we don't need this corporation to come in here and run this thing like a business, because we see how it is, handled in American sports. And while it is a moneymaker and it's a machine, and, there's so many good opportunities for potential growth and, for other, players and clubs and teams to get the exposure, that they could be deserving of, right? It's still more based on heritage. And that's basically why the fans, were so upset. So when, Sunday comes around, the fans are like, look, man, we have been telling y'all that we do not want y'all here since 2005. This is a literal, like, I'm not even exaggerating, 16-year issue that has just been bubbling and boiling. And, with the fans having this outlet and this, opportunity of saying, damn, y'all, like, y'all are just proving us right. Y'all only want money. Y'all did this just solely of the purpose to try to get more money for y'all to continuously not to invest back into the club. And so y'all can just say, oh, well, we own Manchester United. We're part of this club that is so exclusive and so fancy and da-da-da-da, like, just owning something to own something, to make money off of it, which I say this all the time. Owning a sports team, no matter what team you own, I don't care where it is, as long as it's a professional sports team, you have to be passionate about the sport in order for, one, you to truly connect to your fan base, and two, for you to actually connect to your players. Like, the players know too. And I'm sure that the players, the ones that did come and speak out to the Super League, are probably in opposition of the way that the Glazers run the entire organization, right? So when you have the fans, in Manchester literally go and break into the stadium, like are fighting, like are storming the pitch, having to have security called, having the game postponed. Like when you're going to that level and you see your customers, because that's what the Glazers look at, United supporters as their customers. When you have your customers saying, look, man, we got buyer's remorse. Like, y'all are not giving us the standard of excellence that we were accustomed to, pre-05. So, yeah, man, the United people, they stormed the stadium, and it was crazy to see that, so many people are this passionate about their club. And just in general in sports, there's been such a trend of, players taking back that power and fans as well taking back that power and telling these teams like, look, we're not just going to watch. Like, yes, we will watch, but we're not just going to sit here and take the crap and BS that y'all want to, just shovel in our mouths just because you think we'll believe it. And you think, you'll convince us that it's the best thing for the brand and for the team, when in reality, Man United supporters know it's not. It just isn't. So honestly, I really think that the Glazers are probably going to have to sell the team because, United is one of the biggest, like, not only fan bases in Europe, but in the entire world. So if, the Glazers think that this is going to stop, they sadly mistaken. Like, you can maybe do some BS with a team like Tampa, and, with Tampa being such a smaller market and, being in the U.S. and whatnot, I don't think you can pull that off in one of the biggest, cities in England. So I think you should stop acting like it, to be honest. Like, and I think you should get a grip if you're the Glazers, because you're going to get yourself ran out of town. And that's not going to be good for any future endeavor that you have, if it's anything in the sports world. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but shout out to everybody who stormed the pitch, even though y'all probably going to get slammed upside the damn head with fines and stuff like that. I feel like it's worth it to send the message and, get into some good trouble, in the words of John Lewis, get into that trouble where you're doing something that will get you in trouble, but it's for the right cause. So shout out to those guys. But to end the big three, we definitely got to bring it back home and talk about Aaron Rodgers and just the stress, I guess, that my guy's been going under in Green Bay, man. I totally understand that these guys are, and, especially with the quarterbacks, more than probably any other position, I think that they are held to a standard because it is, arguably the most important position in team sports. I feel like they hold themselves to a standard when they're considered elite, that, they really don't have the easiest time accepting, when it's getting later on in their career, So for example, Drew Brees, he held on for as long as he possibly could, man. Like, he really did. And yeah, he could have retired earlier and probably made the Saints better and, had the Saints, been a little bit more proactive in pushing them out, then maybe we could have been in a better spot. But that's a different talk for a different day. But you could see, Drew Brees, his attitude was, man, I still can do this. Man, I still got, the capabilities to be, if not elite, a great quarterback in this league. And with Aaron Rodgers, he's still very, very good. I don't think he's to that territory to where he's going to be, worried about, if he's going to get benched or, if he's done in this league or anything like that. I think he's fine with that. But his legacy is coming into, his thought process probably now more than ever, with Jordan Love being drafted, last year, and, the Packers kind of doing something that, it's not the same because Jordan Love is not as good as a prospect as Aaron Rodgers was, right? But still, it's a movie he's seen before, and it's something that in a time where you just won the MVP, you're not really ready to accept that, right? So honestly, I can understand why he's like, man, if the organization isn't showing me a lot to be committed to me, it's one thing to be thinking about the future, which is fine. I can understand that, if I'm personally Aaron Rodgers. But if you're going to give me, the situation to where I'm like literally like handcuffed and it feels like you're hindering me from being the best me while I still have my God-given ability at, 100%, then, there is going to be some friction and there is going to be some tension and somebody's probably going to want to leave. So, he puts out this news during the draft, which I personally felt like was not the smartest move because I feel like, he should have done it close to the draft, but maybe like a week before, so you can really get the Packers thinking, and second guessing themselves on, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe we should take him. Maybe we should take a wide receiver that we like, or offensive lineman, or whatever Aaron wants, and make him happy. But he did it day of, it's like, okay, well, these guys probably got the guys that they, want written down. So it's really kind of puzzling why he did it this late. But I mean, the Niners offered the 3rd round pick plus more for him. So for, the Packers to not want to take that, obviously it's not technically about replacing Aaron currently, but they're not doing a lot to commit to him either. They're saying, yeah, he's our guy, we want him to be here for years to come. But you say that about the MVP of the league. No smart or competent head coach or front office, says anything else because it just detracts people, the best players from you. If you're going to treat your reigning MVP like that, then how are you expected to treat me, right? So I feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to be on the Packers next year, and the year after that, because I don't really think he has a choice with the contract unless he's willing to, sit out and not participate or retire or, do whatever. But he's either going to be, have to be willing to pay back that money, or he's going to have to be willing to, cause the ruckus that is necessary to, get him moved. And obviously we've seen that more and more, throughout sports, but he's really going to have to do it in a huge way. So we'll see, man. I really feel like he's still going to be there, but hey, I mean, I wouldn't mind Aaron Rodgers in San Francisco, or maybe Aaron Rodgers, in Green Bay. I think he'll be fine there. I just think they have to commit to him and actually be a little bit more aggressive. If you're gonna say, well, we're trying to help him by doing X, Y, and Z, but X, Y, and Z isn't as aggressive as you need to be, especially with a quarterback who is in his prime still. So yeah, hats off to the Packers for sticking with it and trying to live through this, but hats off to Aaron Rodgers too for speaking his mind and letting them know, man, look, if y'all play with me, I really will consider retiring or go somewhere else or, whatever. But y'all not just about to do me like this. So I can't be mad at him. I really can't. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all for rocking with us today on this beautiful Tuesday. Please remember to like, subscribe, follow all of that good stuff on YouTube at the Players Ball Podcast. We are also on Twitter. That is the Players Ball 1, and on Instagram at the Players Ball Podcast. You can follow me at Roddy Remastered. And definitely make sure you guys are leaving comments, anything to help the show. We would greatly appreciate it. We're going to keep getting some guests for y'all. We're still in the process of getting the visual podcast going, so we'll have that for y'all sooner rather than later. But, keep looking out for our visual Zoom casts where we have our guests and things like that, all right? So without that, going a little further, we gonna end it right here. Shout out to y'all. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Thursday, and let's ride out.